Hi friends, welcome. Today I want to answer a couple of questions that I got from a singular person. His name is Patrick B. Thank you, Patrick B, for the wonderful questions. And then after that, I'm going to talk about some photos that I've come across recently that I thought were interesting in the street photography realm. And then it gets a little bit photojournalistic at the end. What do you expect? I have my peppermint coffee. Let's begin. Peppermint tea. The first question is, where is this amazing place? And this comment was posted below this video. So it was this place that he was referring to, or set of places. And I told him this place is the Salt Lake Valley. It's a very lovely place. Lots of good things to work with. Question number 2, how did you manage to get good exposures? On clear sunny days like this, I find I get such horrible pictures with just 2 shades, light and shadow, nothing in between. The entirety of that photo walk took place between 4 and 6 p.m. So it wasn't like noon. I had some angled shadows, a little bit of dramatic lighting to work with. This is a great example of that. We can see that the light is coming in from the right side of the frame and it's casting a long shadow off the left side of her. Now let's say one is shooting around noon-ish time. One of the things that you can focus on is light and color contrast, leaning into those things in order to make your photo more intriguing. This could be very useful because if you're shooting at that time, things are going to appear rather flat. So adding in some extra light and color contrast to the mix, seeking that out wherever you are, can be helpful. So if you have a scene that has a blue on red type of color contrast happening, that's a scene that you might be able to play with and pull something out of. A good example is this. I don't even know what photo I'm showing you right now. I haven't decided what it's gonna be yet. I'm gonna have to find it later. So this. And the third question, which I found to be very intriguing, I like this question a lot, is what is your philosophy on going up to people and asking for a photo sesh? Legally, you don't have to ask them in public. So other than maybe just being respectful, are there any other reasons asking people makes for better photos in certain situations? For those of you who have been around for a while, you probably know that in most of my photo walks, I don't tend to walk up to people and ask them if I can take their photo, even though I want to start doing that more in upcoming photo walks. One of the major reasons being because I want to help you guys if you're struggling with approaching strangers on the street. You probably don't realize this, but walking up to people I've never met before and asking if I can take their photo makes me nervous, I can assure you, but I do it anyway, and that's kind of the point. Not only does it help me achieve certain kinds of photos, which I'll get into in a second, but it challenges me tremendously, and it allows me to interact with new, interesting people. With that said, approaching or not approaching people to take their photos, both are useful approaches for different types of photos. It depends on your goals. If your priority is to not disturb a scene, then not approaching the person might be a fantastic option. If your if you want to perhaps get those shots where the person is looking straight at you, you're getting that split-second reaction to them seeing the camera, then not approaching the person is a good option. But if you want to get inside their bubble and be able to move around them a little bit and put together a composition that you wouldn't be able to be so thoughtful about if you did not approach the person, then that's when it's a good time to do so. I found that with my photos lately, with what I'm trying to do with them, it would be useful for me to spend a couple minutes with the person as opposed to 3.5 seconds. In the last photo walk video, there were 2 perfect examples of this. With the soccer players, I was trying to square up a photo with them and the background, with them kicking and being able to watch them do it over and over and see the patterns and where they're gonna end up, and pair that with the background of the mountains and the rest of the park and the fence and everything. Making all that come together is much easier when they know you're there and they're not worried about you being there. I spent what felt those 5 to 10 minutes, I think, framing up what my shots would look like. And that was incredibly useful. And then there was the couple with their dog. I wanted to get in their bubble and be a bit intimate and move around them and capture different facial expressions. And so me saying hello to them made made that work out the way that it did in the video. And on top of that, interacting with the people that you're taking photos of always allows for the opportunity to learn more about that person and perhaps give more context to that photo later and tell a more compelling story, which that's a big deal. Okay, that's it for Patrick's questions. Thank you, Patrick. For anyone else, if you have questions similar to those, please feel free to ask them. Sometimes they make them in videos like this. Now I want to talk about some photos that I found on Instagram that I think are compelling. First, we have this one by Giacomo Sanapoli. This was taken in Milan in 2020, as the caption states. And we have a lovely black and white scene with some very stark lighting, a nice light beam coming down the frame in a diagonal fashion with a cyclist directly in the middle. This is a gorgeous shot. So one way to get rid of undesirable clutter in a scene is to shoot or edit in black and white. This allows you to get rid of extraneous colors that you don't want. It allows you to focus the attention of the viewer when done properly. Another way to do this is have very dramatic contrast. And when I say contrast, by the way, I don't mean like the contrast slider. Don't push that all the way up to 100 necessarily. I mean contrast in the scene, what the world is giving you. In this case, we have this large scene. We have the context that we're in this large open area, but all of the things in the scene that could be competing for our attention are not, because we have a single beam of light where your eye goes to. And that's a powerful technique. Next, we have this photo by Super Jim with two eyes. This was taken in London. And I just wanted to talk about how lovely it is that the girl's head is placed in between two points where it could be clashing, right? So if her head was to the left, it would be over the top of this very bright tower of orange and yellow light. But if it was more to the right, then it would be covering up the center of the Ferris wheel, and that could clash. It feels like the photographer probably moved around a bit to make this work and happened to put the girl's head directly in a spot where it would not be clashing with anything. It feels very aesthetically pleasing, and we have a lot of wonderful context around what's going on. Facial expression, fantastic, good light on her face. This is a good street photo. And the edges are great as well. There's nothing coming in a weird way. Next, another photo by Super Jim with two eyes, taken in London. And we have a girl looking out a window. Very thoughtful expression on her face. A very minimalistic scene in a way, or I guess, let's say, a very tight scene. You don't see a lot of the environment. You don't know where the girl is. There's a lot of context removed. It feels wonderful in that regard. The rain on the window brings a nice aesthetic drama, and then she has lovely light on her face. Once again, technically can be very hard to do. She could have easily had a very dark face, no light coming in. The car could have moved a little bit this way and it would have been gone. So this was good execution by Super Jim with two eyes, taken in London. Next, we have another one by Giacomo Sanapoli once again, and this one is interesting to me because of its bizarreness. I think using bizarreness in a photo is a great way to create some intrigue and pull somebody into the story of whatever's going on. There's mystery, and it allows your mind to kind of wander to different areas and what's happening here? Why is there a bag on her head? Does it have to do with COVID-19? Seems like a strange way to shield yourself from the world, or shield your sneezes from others. And then in the background, there's a little bit of clutter, but it's not clashing in a strange way, right? That if the bag was, I think that's a bag. If the bag was the same kind of reddish color as the truck in the background, that would be problematic, but it's this nice, beautiful, contrasting blue. But mystery is a powerful force in a photo, and you can see that on display here. Next photo, also by the same fellow. This one is much more abstract in a sense. You don't quite know where you're at. I feel like in my past videos, I've repeatedly hit on this idea of how powerful it is to add context to a photo, but also how powerful it is to remove context from a photo and create more mystery. We have a very minimalistic color palette here, with the only colors being red, and then a contrasting splash of blue on the little scooter that the the child is riding on. Another thing about the child is it's just a touch of humanity in this photo that would otherwise be humanity-less. Something that's interesting here is that this was just a photo of a kid on a scooter, right? Just the kid's maybe 20 feet away on a scooter, and there's not too much going on other than that. It's like the photo that the father would take of their kid. It would not be that aesthetically or mentally intriguing of a photo, but in this case, we have the story of the child playing, being playful, inserted into an abstract and very aesthetically pleasing scene, which pulls your mind into the photo. I think that's useful. Also, I think the scooter touching the wall and the kid beginning to go behind the wall, the lack of separation creates a pleasing tension in the shot. It would have been just as good if the kid was further back, but it wouldn't have the same tension, I don't think, unless maybe the kid was right on the edge of the frame. The next couple of photos I'm going to treat them as a series by a photographer that I love. She's one of my favorite street photographers. Her name on Instagram is Golden2Do. These are two shots where you have someone separating themselves from the crowd by them looking at the camera. The first one with a young girl staring directly at the camera. She's in the center of the frame and she's the brightest point in the frame. It looks like she's with her friend and there are other people kind of around, but her staring directly at you, connecting eye to eye with you, is one of the strongest forces in street photography to separate somebody from the crowd and make you connect with that person, perhaps even empathize with that person, want to get inside that person's head. The facial expression, the eyes, everything makes you instantaneously build a relationship with the person and want to learn more about them. And the authenticity of the expression, the candidness of the expression gives you a different experience than if the person would have been, say, smiling. So in this case, we have a singular person separated from the crowd. In this next photo, we have two people who look very similar to one another, separated from the crowd. So we have these two little girls looking straight at us, connecting with us, all of those same things, while the adults are looking away from us. I just think that's an interesting touch, something to think about, the way that kids perceive things differently, that sort of thing. It's kind of like in the movies where the kids can see the magical creatures because they still believe, but the adults can't because they don't believe anymore. They're just going to their job at the post office, magicless. Wait a second. I don't see magical creatures. Great photo. Also, compositionally speaking, you have some very pleasing depth, which is accentuated by the focal length in this case. Okay, next I want to move into some COVID-19 photos that feel a bit more photojournalistic, but still teeter on the street realm. I come across some wonderful photos on Time's Instagram account, and this is one of them. People play instruments as others dance on their balconies in support of doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel who are working during the coronavirus outbreak in Barcelona on April 5th. This is an example of being in the right place at the right time. If you're a photographer and you want to capture stories that are compelling like this, you need to be where the stories are. Sometimes that is the hardest part. It takes a lot of back-end work. I remember when I had a conversation with my friend Sam. He's taken photos of all sorts of different interesting subjects, including wildland firefighters, which I spoke to him about. He also took photos at the Tour de France, which I spoke to him about. There's a lot of effort that goes into actually getting your body to be physically at the place where the cyclists are, or the firefighters are.
They're sleeping outside on the ground. These guys are burning 8,000 calories a day, and they got 50-pound rucksacks on. They're thousands of feet of elevation a day. This was my first project where I did some traveling for, and I was kind of like a kid on Christmas. It was like, I can't wait to do this. Like, I'm gonna go 1,000 miles an hour. Let's rock and roll. And then I got there, and I just have this little camera bag, and I'm kind of going up and down the mountains with these guys, and I was kind of like,
Were you winded?
Yeah, they kicked my butt.
But one of the things I love so much about this photo is it is the beauty of the human spirit on display in its various forms. You have different people performing different activities of expression and celebration. It's beautiful. Another photo shared by Time, photograph taken by Christopher V.I.I. Within a week, 3 people died in one day. All 3 had the same symptoms, so we had them tested and all came back positive. Ever since then, every day there's been someone dying with this virus. Recently, 5 people died in one day, says Michael Fowler, coroner of Dougherty County, Georgia. This is a photo that is very sad and very important, and it shares the harsh reality of what's going on. The power of this photo is very similar to the power of other photos that have been taken in powerful moments in history. A couple examples are this photo taken at the Boston Marathon. We have police officers confused. One of them has his gun out. We have an old man laying on the ground, just chaos. And that was that moment. And that was the harsh reality of what was happening there and what we were all dealing with as humans there. Then we have another photo of a girl in Japan after the tsunami. We have a photo of a soldier and a local man giving him tea. Now imagine if you heard or read a news story that says a local Afghan man gave a soldier tea as he guarded their town. It does not have the same emotional impact on our lives. You don't know how to picture that in your head. You don't know if it actually even happened. But in this case, not only do you know that it was a fact, that it really occurred, and that this sort of kindness and this interesting dynamic of an American soldier being in Afghanistan, an Afghan man being kind to the American soldier, not only do you know that that actually happened, but you were able to connect with the faces, and you were able to see with your own eyes that thing playing out, that moment in time frozen for you. That is powerful in a completely different way. And then, of course, if you have a moment like that and you insert a talented photographer who takes a well-composed photo and a photo that is aesthetically pleasing, that connects with the viewer more and pulls them in more to the story in a different way than just a cell phone snapshot would, for example. Even a video would connect with the viewer in a different way. And finally, I had to throw in a photo from my favorite photographer, Steve McCurry. Hopefully one day I can give him a sanitized elbow tap. A tailor salvages his sewing machine from his destroyed shop from monsoon floods, taken in India in 1983. This photo is so beautiful to me. Aesthetically, it's fantastic, but the story of what's going on here, we have a monsoon, we have a destroyed shop. This is this person's livelihood, probably a very important thing to him. He rescued a sewing machine. He's walking through water that is up to his neck, and he has a giant smile on his face. And that's it. Freaking amazing. Okay, that is it. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Like I said, they might make it into a video. Anything else I want to say? I don't think so. Okay, bye.